Good morning, Vietnam. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of It's Only Monday podcast. It's the podcast below pepping yourself. It's the podcast making Monday feel like a Friday. This is the podcast to get your Mondays going. I'm your boy JT. I just want to thank you for being with me today. Listen, before anything, we do the first things first here all the time, which is we thank God for another day. But even more than that, we got to thank God for another year. Listen, we got to see another year. You did, I did. That's amazing. Don't let anyone downplay that. So, first things first, thank you, God, for another year. All right, we got a good one for the first of the year to talk about. Good first episode at the top of the year. We have to talk about something that's going to really make it worthwhile for us. So, I think I got a good one, which is, but before I even get into it, before we get into this, I want you to scroll down a little bit and hit that subscribe button for me. Do me a favor and just subscribe to this channel if you like what's going on here. Every Monday, we have these discussions, these talks, these one-on-ones. And if you're feeling it, just do me a favor, hit subscribe. Anyways, what are we doing for the top of the year? I think with the top of the year, what we should talk about is something I think that we all have thought about, should be doing, think we're doing, might not be doing, which is investing in ourselves. Now, what does that look like, though? What does investing in yourself look like this year? What does it look like? It's looked like many different phases for me throughout the years. And I think I want to share how that can be something that you can adopt yourself. I think so many times we think investing in yourself just means financially in certain things, depending on what we do, which is definitely a part of it. But I think there's a lot of things that we can do for this year instead of just investing in ourselves. One way is the three ways to look at it. There's investing in your mind, body, and soul. I think if you break it down to those three categories, it makes perfect sense. First thing I would say when it comes to investing in your soul, getting right with God, building out your relationship with God. For me, it's church, God, and keeping that close to me. My Lord Jesus Christ and Savior. But that is the first, I think, foundation for a lot of things, especially for me. Religion plays a big role of like being able to have a foundation of where I go for most of the things in my thoughts. So that's the first part. But the second part I would say is your mind, right? I think we can get to our mind last. I think that part can get a bit very complex, but I'm going to get into the body. Investing in our body, this year, I think is really focusing on kind of the simple things: eating better, working out, staying in shape, those type of things. And even if you have slacked in the past, or you fall off the wagon here and there and you try to cut out sugar but you're still eating it here and there, or want to stop drinking, all those type of things, the best time to start is always now, right? They always say that to reset. And I think the best way you can focus on investing in yourself before anything is your body. There's this cool saying that someone said, which was, your body is the one thing that if you get that right, and this is obviously the extreme of it, but like for guys, like getting it muscular and doing their thing, it's the one thing that signifies other people that it's something that you had to work for, right? Because you can't, no matter what, you can't buy muscles. I don't know if that's possible nowadays. Who knows? But you can't buy muscles, right? Even if you want to say people take stuff to be bigger in the gym, they still got to do the actual work. So aside from all that, with muscles and building yourself up that way physically, it takes work, it takes time, and it's not something that you can just get like that. So one thing I guess for investing in yourself would be your body, which would be, your diet, what you're eating, going to the gym regularly, working out, lifting things, and not just lifting in a way of just to be big and strong, but actually be active and be able to, maneuver and not feel tired and sluggish. Another thing that brings to you will be, I guess, a sense of confidence, because end of the day, you know, if your body is good, there's no, outfit or car or anything that can top that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the foundation what you're putting it on, right? You put your clothes on top of it. So once you have that in check, that's also a confidence builder. It's the best way to invest in yourself. I think it's something that keeps you, strong and healthy, keeps you, I guess confidently in the sense of how you feel. If you feel stronger, you're gonna move stronger and act stronger, etc. Throughout anything you do in life. And it's the best place to start because it's very low investment. You don't necessarily have to go get a gym membership or have to go get a trainer. You can literally start by doing push-ups and sit-ups and just home workouts. Go on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of them there. So I think the first thing it looks like for investing in ourselves when it comes to body is that. Next up, I want to say is mind. The mind is something that is very complex, right? And when we invest in our mind, we're obviously investing in it so we can go out into the world and utilize it in different ways. So, what does it look like investing into your mind this year in 2024? Well, I think that looks like one thing that might be unconventional is going back to um, learning facts and things. A lot of times, I think we live in a world now where we can just Google anything. Like if I want to know who is some historical figure, you could just Google it in 2 seconds, right? How certain systems work, you can just Google it. You don't need to necessarily know it, but there was a ton of time where learning things and being able to retain information was important. Not as much anymore, but I do think that lended to people being more. I don't know if it had to do with intellect, but it seasoned your brain in a way. It felt like your brain was constantly working, having to pull that information back out if you're having a conversation and able to run off certain facts and statistics and things to give information in a conversation that had to be pulled from somewhere, not just like from the internet database, but from your actual brain. And it kept your brain moving, which kind of moves back into body, but same thing. And it gave you a sense of, I guess, exercise for your brain. So I think that's one way to look at investing in yourselves is going back to just know general knowledge and information on different things, like not even just what you're interested in, but things you're not interested in. And that moves into the next point where it is one thing I've always been is someone that's very interested in what anything, like if I'm having a conversation and someone's talking about something that I might not be, let's say I'm not interested in 100%, I still will listen because I know someday in my life, there might be a time when I need to pull back that information. Like, for example, if you ever watch Slumdog Millionaire, the cool thing about Slumdog Millionaire is if you haven't seen the movie, one part of it that's kind of the main premise is he's on his game show, but every question that's being asked of him on the game show, the answer is something that he kind of has already gone through in life. So what they're doing is like every single time they ask him a question, like what I'm just gonna say something random, but like what station has this type of train? And then like he'll go back to a story of when he was like younger and something happened and in this train station something happened and he actually saw the answer. So it's like he's gone through these things in his life that actually lend to the answers that he's giving. Now, would that happen to a lot of people nowadays? I don't really know because a lot of times we're not going out there and living too much. A lot of stuff is happening online, but it lends back to the fact that when you're having a conversation with somebody, like someone's, let's say they're talking about quantum physics, and you might not be interested, or artificial intelligence, or something that like you're just not that interested in 100%. Generally, force yourself to be interested and listen, like, or just listen and try to understand because it will give you general knowledge. I think of things that you'll just know that I always believe will come back up sometime in the future that you might need to answer. Uh, Me personally, anytime I'm actually interested, like when I have conversations with people, to like hear what they have to say about certain things. If they're talking about a certain topic, I want to actually like listen and hear it, and not just wait for my turn to talk, right? And when that happens, you end up gathering a lot of information of different industries and things that when you end up having a conversation with someone later on, it's you can recall that information and it works out for you, or it's something that might pop up in your day to day down the line. Who knows when? Perfect example is like for me, I work on videos and working on videos, there's times where I'm editing a documentary or a commercial for something that's like out of the realm of what I do. It's in something in some other sector, but then it gives me information. I get to learn about things that like I might have never ever learned before. So it builds up this database in my brain of just information and being able to pull, you know, interesting facts or about things I didn't, or have conversations with people that necessarily maybe I go to an event and I meet somebody and they're in the medical field and I've just done a video on some type of like medical surgeries and things like that. And they might be talking about it thinking like, okay, this person has no idea. But then I actually can speak to some of the things that they're talking about and understand because I have a, the background's kind of there because of something I did over here. So with that being said, investing in yourself, I think looks different ways. And with your mind, I think there's ways to invest in yourself that necessarily doesn't mean you have to go out there and physically pay and do this, but you can find ways day to day to invest in yourself with just people around you. And there's a vast majority of knowledge around you that you're not soaking in because you might not be interested in it, or you just might not start that conversation. The last thing I'll say too for investing yourself in what you can do this year, I think going to 2024, is taking the time to learn new skills. Don't just you know, stick to what you already know, but constantly keep adding more to your repertoire. There's no reason why you can't just go out and, Google something. Now this is the part where I'd say to Google, just Google something like something that you don't know, just Google it and just get lost in what it is. Just keep trying to learn. Like look around your house and say, oh, okay, there's a chair. How are chairs made? Google it. You find something that brings you to a video about how chairs are made, and then you find a manufacturer, and then you follow that manufacturer and see what else they manufacture and how, and then it just might get interesting. And and you learn this whole process that might not be something you want to make a skill set, but it's something that you might learn or intrigue you to find a skill set within that, right? And that was a perfect example, but I'm just giving you leads to find a way to kind of jump to the next thing without, because you don't necessarily have to know what it is, but you can like find it out by, I think, getting lost and learning different things. And lastly, I think the next thing you can do to invest in yourself is, yes, this is the financial part, is putting money into, courses or, things online that like books and that nature. And I think that part is vital because there's a quote where any problem that you have, the answer's in a book somewhere. And yes, I know the internet's great when it comes to podcasts and videos, and there's so much information to be able to gather from things, but there is something about with books how structured and sound they are. And a lot of times, like when they're put together very in a way to give the information. A lot of times you can watch a video or a podcast and things are kind of given to you in a way to entertain you, still give you information, but really, there's a lot of things surrounding it to keep you engaged, right? Versus a book might not keep you totally engaged depending on the type of book it is, but the information there is solid. And it's a way to um one, invest in yourself as well when it comes to vocabulary, and just keeping your brain working by reading things. I think you retain a lot more information when you do read. It's a little different than just watching something or passively listening to like a podcast or a video, because it makes you actively work. You kind of have to make sure you understand the sentences you're reading, go back. It takes a lot longer. I can just say the sentence really fast and you heard it already. But if you had to read that sentence, it might take a little bit longer, or, you might have to go back a couple times depending on what it is and what the information is being conveyed. So that is another process I think that it goes into. And then the last thing I think is the physical workshop part of things, which is like doing the courses and things like that online, like a Skillshare or any type of thing where you can practice things, things that you can learn and you can actually put into practice right away. So looking at those type of things, mind, body, and soul. I know with the soul, I didn't go deep into that, but I have my religion, my relationship with God, and that's like important. And that's, I think, the foundation before I can move into the other things. But when it comes to investing into like the physical of your mind and your body, I think those are some things you can look into before you even get to the financial parts that can really help you, take this year and start it off well. I think everyone wants to start off the year running and going hard, and I'm going to do it. But I think if you take the year, taking the time to make sure you are feeding yourself the type of information you need to, and getting your body into a place where it needs to, mind, soul, everything, it, I think you have a way better shot down the line of doing a lot of great things as it moves along. So yeah, I think that's a good way to come back talking about what we can do for investing ourselves in the new year. It's 2024, another year. A lot has happened, a lot's going to happen, but I think if we really take the time to focus on ourselves in the way of trying to just get better every single day and not letting a day pass where you just let things just, stay stagnant, but you're always trying to grow and learn more and teach yourself more and become someone that can pass on information and help people and make it. Listen, the more you help yourself, the more you can help the next person. That's one of the things that's most important. I think a lot of people forget that in order to be able to be good to other people and be a positive and also do things to help them, you need to be able to first help yourself. And once you can do that, you're able to help the next person. So the best thing you can do is really invest in yourself, which will allow you to do more for others. And if that's something you really care about, which I do, and doing more for others, you got to put yourself in a position that you can do for yourself first before you can do for others. So when you kind of see how full circle it goes, it makes sense. And what might push you to invest in yourself might be from a, I don't want to say selfish place, but a place about for yourself. Or the other part could be is for others. And I think that's another thing that can make a switch in your brain, which is, okay, I want to invest in myself so I can help others. Not just really about making myself great, but making myself great where I can do great things for other people. And that's where it can lead you to want to do these things. So make sure you invest in your mind, body, soul this year. Start off like that. I know everyone wants to hit the ground running and just going, but I think if you take the time to really look at that, because a lot of times maybe by the way the year ended, you weren't really in that mind frame. You're just, celebrating, relaxing, end of the year. Starting off the new year, you want to just, but before that, I think if you take the time to really sit down and really cultivate what you got going on and then move into it, I think you'll have a lot more momentum than just hitting the ground running and not really focusing on those things. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in to the top of the year episode for It's Only Monday podcast. I'm your boy JT. Homework for the week this week will be just that, focusing on your mind, body, and soul. So making sure you're getting right with God, making sure you're focusing on working out, and making sure you are growing and working your brain and doing different things that you can to make sure that those three things are all intact. So that's on you to do. No one else can do that but you, and no one can force you to do it but you. And you gotta want that. But if you put that time into yourself, I think that'll make you a well-adjusted human being, and it'll get you ready and give you the tools, I think, or get you to the tools that you need to be a great influence in other people's lives and to be able to help other people and people around you and the ones you love and you care about. All right. So that's the way I kind of look at it. That's the way I do look at it. So thank you for watching another episode of It's Only Monday podcast. I want to thank you. You could have been anywhere in the world today, and you are, because the power of the internet makes it possible, but you are here with me right now. Make sure you hit subscribe on this channel if you like it. Tell a friend, and I will see you in the next one.